When you explore Capti with ReadBasix and look at the reports, you're really going to be able to see the story that the data tells. So I'm walking into my class of 7th graders, and I'm going to really start with this global picture, and then I'm going to be able to get more and more local to the individual student and see how students are doing in their reading foundational skills. So I'm clicking into my 7th grade class, and I see initially that there are these profiles. There's notable profiles for students who score at extreme ends of the scale on various subtests. There are students who are high, scoring mostly high on the subtests, medium, medium performance across the subtest, and then low. Students who are struggling and performing weak on most of the subtests. And then there are students who they're just unknown at this point. They would need more data to determine what type of profile that student would have. So as I'm looking at this global picture, I'm seeing that students have all completed every subtest. So all 6 subtests are complete for this class of students. I can see the subtest and the absolute scale score and see the number of students who performed at the strong, high average, low average, and weak performance. And as I'm comparing it here, I can see which sub-skill students are really struggling the most in. And it looks like here would be word recognition and decoding and vocabulary. Though word recognition and decoding definitely has more students who performed at the weak performance level. I can also look at their grade equivalency, green meaning that they are at or above grade level. This next one is students who are 1 grade level below, and then 2 or more grade levels. We can also see their RTI tier recommendation and see the number of students who are recommended to have interventions, whether they're tier 2 or tier 3, for each foundational reading skill. So that's the most global picture. So I'm starting to see that students are definitely needing support in word recognition and decoding, and potentially vocabulary as well. So now I'm going to go into students, and I can see the picture of each student's subtest. So I get this scale score for each of the subtests. I can also change this to grade equivalency to look at it that way, or their percentile to also see how their scores are matching up when compared to other students who have taken the test nationally. So if I look at the score again, I'm going to use the sorting feature to really see how could I use this to say who I can group together. And this is an important feature because researchers at ETS found that there's a decoding threshold, meaning that if students are 235 or below on the word recognition and decoding subtest, they don't have a relationship with reading comprehension. So their inability to recognize words automatically and decode words actually just doesn't connect to reading comprehension. And then conversely, if students are above that 235 mark, they have a positive relationship with reading comprehension, meaning that their word recognition and decoding actually supports reading comprehension. So that's one way that I can start to look at the data and say, okay, how could I work with this subset of students who are below 235 and really, figure out what's going on with their ability to recognize words and sound those words out. I could do that for other skills as well. So if I look at sentence processing, I can look and see, okay, it looks like Nico's struggling with that. He might need some help there. But I can also look and see how the rest of my class is doing as well. So now I'm going to dig a little bit deeper into students' data. And I'm going to select a student, Chloe. She has a medium profile, but what's unique about her is she didn't always start at this medium level. She actually started her 7th grade year below that decoding threshold at 229. And then through strategic intervention that her teacher gave her, um, her score started to go up in word recognition and decoding. And by the end of her 7th grade year, she was up to 249. And this is significant growth because we can see that it also connected to her reading comprehension, where she was a low average performance in the fall. Through strategic intervention in word recognition and decoding, her reading comprehension increased as well. So, this is really telling us the story of Chloe's reading skills and really being able to dig into what it takes to be able to support middle school learners in um, achieving at higher levels. So, her teacher used recommendations to really determine what type of skills to work with Chloe on throughout the year. So at the very beginning of the year, Chloe was this low average performance in word recognition and decoding. She was below that decoding threshold, so her teacher looked for resources from the Meadow Center and the University of Utah's Reading Clinic, and she did some strategic intervention focused on phonics, but even more so than phonics, on word analysis. So when Chloe took the assessment again in the winter and her score had increased to 236, her teacher started to look at those recommendations. And when she looked at the recommendations for Chloe at that point, she started to see that she really needed explicit instruction in word analysis. And that's where she started to focus Chloe's intervention. So she did a lot more with the 6 syllable types, and then she also pulled in morphemes to support Chloe in making sense of words that include suffixes and prefixes. And she continued to do that type of intervention until the end of the school year. And then when Chloe took her final assessment in the spring, she had improved her score, and consequently, she actually improved all of her other reading subtest scores because her ability to make sense of the words on the page through her word recognition and decoding had improved so much. We'll take a look at one more student. So let's go ahead and take a look at Allison. So when Allison started her 7th grade year, she was struggling with reading efficiency. And this is a silent reading fluency measure. It's similar to the DAIS or the maze if you've had experience with that. And what this tells us is that Allison looked great across the rest of her subtests, but she was really struggling to read fluently when she was asked to do that silently. So her teacher really worked on Allison's ability to read fluently through repeated readings, and this really did improve her ability to read more efficiently throughout the school year. And you'll also notice that the other scores where she was lower in, those also improved because what her teacher found is that through her improved fluency, her confidence also grew, and she was able to tackle more complex texts with her newfound confidence. So that really illustrates how the reports from ReadBasix can paint a picture and tell a story of our students' reading abilities.